World War II didn't just destroy cities, armies, and millions of lives. It destroyed Germany from the inside. And one of the most dangerous conflicts of the entire war wasn't fought against the Allies or the Soviet Union. It was fought inside Germany's own military. A hidden war, a rivalry so intense that by the end, it helped bring the entire system down. Winter 1943. Eastern Front, 14 degrees below zero. A Wehrmacht officer stands in a frozen trench. His breath turns to ice in the air. His fingers barely move. Every second outside cover risks frostbite. His men sit in silence, wrapped in worn coats issued years earlier. Many still wear boots from the first campaigns of the war. The leather is cracked, the insulation is gone. Then, through the falling snow, he sees movement. A column approaches, fresh winter uniforms, new boots, clean weapons. Behind them, heavy engines growl. Tiger tanks roll forward, massive, untouchable, machines designed to dominate the battlefield. These are not Allied troops, these are Waffen-SS. The officer watches them pass. He mutters to his sergeant, "They fight hard, but they burn through men faster than we burn fuel." The sergeant doesn't even look up. His voice is flat. At least when they freeze to death, they're wearing good boots. This moment captures something most people never hear about. By 1945, this rivalry would help Germany lose the war. Two armies, same uniforms, same flag, same enemy, but competing with each other for power, resources, and influence. So make a prediction right now. Same battles, same conditions. Who was more effective, the Wehrmacht or the Waffen-SS? Remember your answer, because the real numbers may surprise you. Most documentaries tell a simple story. The SS were elite, the best trained, the most dangerous. Fanatics who never broke. That image still dominates popular culture, but it hides a deeper and far more disturbing reality. Military historian Trevor Dupuy spent decades analyzing combat effectiveness across hundreds of engagements. He looked at losses, mission success, operational tempo, and battlefield endurance. His goal was simple: measure real performance, not reputation. And what he found changed everything. By 1944, the Waffen-SS had expanded to 38 divisions, but only 8 were truly elite. The rest were foreign volunteers, rushed recruits, and politically motivated formations with uneven training and weak cohesion. Some late-war SS divisions performed worse than average Wehrmacht infantry. That alone challenges the myth. But the most shocking discovery was the cost of success. Even elite SS units often achieved victories with 40 to 70% higher casualties than comparable Wehrmacht formations. That meant something terrifying for Germany's future. Tactical victories were draining the country's limited manpower. Germany was fighting a war of attrition against enemies with far greater reserves. The Soviet Union could replace losses. Germany could not. Every experienced soldier killed was gone forever. This raises a critical question. If the SS weren't truly superior, why were they given priority access to the best weapons, equipment, and supplies? Why did frontline officers in the Wehrmacht come to hate them so deeply? The answer begins in 1942, when the Tiger tank entered production, the most powerful armored vehicle in the world at the time. Wehrmacht panzer divisions had been fighting since 1939. They had taken heavy losses in France, North Africa, and the Soviet Union. But the first Tigers did not go to them. They went to elite SS divisions. To many officers, this felt like betrayal. Years later, historians discovered a more complex truth. On paper, the Wehrmacht often had more tanks overall, but their armor was spread across many divisions in smaller numbers. The SS concentrated their tanks in elite formations. This created a powerful illusion. When a battlefield observer saw an SS division, he saw overwhelming strength. When he saw a Wehrmacht division, he saw scarcity. Perception shaped morale, and morale shaped trust. The logistical system made the divide worse. The Wehrmacht relied on traditional bureaucracy. Requests moved through layers of command. Approval took time. The SS had direct access to power. They could bypass the system entirely. Fuel, ammunition, and winter clothing often reached them first. On the Eastern Front, this difference was deadly. Cold killed as effectively as bullets. Soldiers froze while watching other units receive warm gear. If you want more deep history like this, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments who you think was more effective so far. It helps support this channel and pushes these stories to more viewers. But equipment and supply were only the beginning. The real conflict came from doctrine, from how these two forces fought war itself. The Wehrmacht emphasized reconnaissance, artillery preparation, and maneuver. Find the weak point, break it, preserve experienced troops. The SS emphasized speed, aggression, and shock. Attack directly, accept losses, prove ideological commitment through sacrifice. Both approaches could win battles, but one was far more expensive. And on the Eastern Front, that difference became deadly, because Germany could not afford to waste men. Yet the paradox remained. When the front collapsed, when Soviet offensives threatened to encircle entire armies, SS units often held their ground. Even when retreat was logical, even when survival seemed impossible. That stubbornness bought time. It saved formations. It prevented catastrophic breakthroughs. And this created a dangerous dependency. The German High Command increasingly relied on SS units as a fire brigade, rushing them to crisis points. But every time they did, Germany lost more irreplaceable veterans. The longer the war continued, the deeper this internal conflict became. Two systems, two visions, two armies fighting the same war, but for different reasons. And in the next chapter, we'll uncover the moment when this rivalry stopped being a hidden tension and became a direct threat to Germany's survival. By the end of 1943, the rivalry between the Wehrmacht and the Waffen-SS had escalated into a full-blown competition for resources, reputation, and control. Each side claimed to be Germany's elite. Each believed it was indispensable, and each was determined to prove its superiority. On the Eastern Front, winter raged with temperatures dropping to 20 degrees below zero. Trenches were frozen solid. Soldiers' breath crystallized in the air. Supply lines were stretched thin. Ammunition, food, and fuel were scarce. Yet SS divisions, often receiving the newest equipment and priority logistics, moved with a level of confidence that caused Wehrmacht officers to bristle. They watched as the SS advanced with freshly issued rifles, winter coats, and tanks that dwarfed anything in regular army hands. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Military historian Trevor Dupuy documented dozens of engagements between elite SS units and Wehrmacht formations. His studies revealed that the SS often achieved tactical success, but at a cost the Wehrmacht could not afford. Casualty rates were staggering. In the winter offensive near Kharkov, the 15th SS Panzer Grenadier Division Totenkopf sustained 45% casualties during a 2-week assault, while the comparable Wehrmacht infantry divisions averaged 27% under similar conditions. Each victory for the SS meant Germany lost irreplaceable veterans. Yet the SS doctrine demanded this. Leading from the front was an ideological commandment. Officers shared the risks with their men, proving their loyalty to Hitler personally, not to the nation. For the Wehrmacht, such losses were unacceptable. Commanders prioritized conserving experienced soldiers and maintaining the cohesion of their units. They fought to win with minimal attrition. The contrast in philosophy created tension that went far beyond battlefield disagreements. By mid-1944, the SS had grown to 38 divisions, but only 8 maintained consistent elite performance. The rest were composed of foreign volunteers, hastily trained recruits, or politically motivated units with uneven cohesion. Some of these late war divisions performed worse than average Wehrmacht infantry. The disparity fueled resentment. Wehrmacht officers openly criticized the favoritism that granted the SS priority access to Tiger and Panther tanks, newer artillery, and fuel reserves. Meanwhile, the bureaucracy of the Wehrmacht meant requests for resources could take weeks to be approved. The SS bypassed that system entirely. They answered directly to Himmler, and through him, Hitler. Fuel, ammunition, and winter gear reached them first. Wehrmacht soldiers froze while watching SS units receive warm coats and snow boots. That perception of inequality eroded trust, morale, and the sense of unity essential to Germany's collapsing military. And here is a moment for the audience. If you're watching, pause and consider. What would you have done in their shoes? Could you lead troops while watching elite divisions receive better supplies? Drop your answer in the comments, hit like, and support the channel to bring these hidden stories to more viewers. It's a question that historians still debate. How much did equipment inequality influence battlefield effectiveness? How much was doctrine to blame? Beyond supplies, doctrine amplified the conflict. The Wehrmacht emphasized reconnaissance, precise artillery preparation, and maneuver warfare. They identified enemy weak points and struck strategically. Experienced troops were conserved, and operational plans were meticulous. The SS, by contrast, embraced speed, aggression, and shock tactics. Frontal assaults were common. Speed and determination mattered more than careful planning. Casualty rates were higher, but breakthroughs were often achieved where conventional Wehrmacht tactics might have stalled. On the Eastern Front, where the Red Army's manpower exceeded German reserves, these tactics were a double-edged sword. Holding a position with elite SS units could buy critical time, but every lost soldier increased Germany's long-term vulnerability. The paradox deepened when Soviet offensives threatened entire sectors. SS units often held ground at all costs, even when retreat was the logical choice. Their stubbornness bought time for neighboring Wehrmacht units to regroup and reorganize. Field reports repeatedly noted that without SS intervention, entire defensive lines could have collapsed. Yet every deployment cost Germany irreplaceable veterans. High command increasingly relied on the SS as a fire brigade to respond to crises. Each success reinforced dependence. Each loss worsened the manpower crisis. Strategic necessity and ideological fanaticism collided on the battlefield. This internal conflict was not limited to the Eastern Front. In Italy, Normandy, and the Western Front, similar patterns emerged. SS units were prioritized for reinforcements and cutting-edge weaponry, while Wehrmacht units struggled with older equipment and bureaucratic delays. Rivalry and competition extended into training, intelligence, and even local command authority. Wehrmacht officers often reported that SS units refused tactical withdrawals, citing orders from Himmler. Coordination became difficult. Mistakes multiplied. The two forces, theoretically fighting the same war, operated under different imperatives. One fought for Germany, the other fought for Hitler and ideology. The results were predictable: friction, inefficiency, and sometimes catastrophic misallocation of forces. By 1945, the consequences were visible. Germany's front lines were stretched impossibly thin. Experienced Wehrmacht soldiers had been drained by attrition, and SS casualties were disproportionately high. Late-war SS divisions often collapsed under the pressure of inexperienced command and insufficient cohesion. Meanwhile, the Wehrmacht, though exhausted, adapted. Improvisation, discipline, and careful conservation of forces allowed some defensive lines to hold. The difference in philosophy, doctrine, and resource distribution was now a critical factor in Germany's collapse. The hidden war within the German military, long overshadowed by battles against the Allies and Soviets, had become a decisive internal crisis. And in the next chapter, we will explore the decisive battles where this rivalry escalated from internal tension to an outright threat to Germany's military survival, revealing the final costs of divided loyalty and conflicting strategies. By 1945, Germany's military was unraveling. Years of attrition, mismanagement, and internal rivalry had left both the Wehrmacht and the Waffen-SS weakened beyond repair. On every front, the evidence was clear. Experienced Wehrmacht veterans were gone. SS casualty rates had stripped the elite divisions of their core strength. The Soviet Union pressed forward relentlessly. The Western Allies had breached the Rhine. Resources were scarce. Morale was fractured. And yet, ideological fanaticism drove the remaining SS units to fight with stubborn determination. Their loyalty to Hitler, unyielding and personal, often kept pockets of the front alive, but at a strategic cost Germany could no longer afford. The collapse was not sudden, but cumulative. Wehrmacht divisions, though battered, had maintained cohesion through discipline, training, and careful conservation of manpower. SS units, in contrast, often burned through their soldiers in repeated frontal assaults. Field reports showed that units like the 15th SS Panzer Grenadier Division Totenkopf and the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend had suffered casualty rates between 45 and 70% in a single operation by early 1945. These losses could never be replaced. Entire trained cohorts vanished from the front lines, leaving younger, inexperienced troops to fill the gaps. Logistics, long a source of contention, now became catastrophic. Supplies were dwindling. Fuel, ammunition, and winter clothing were in chronic shortage. Wehrmacht officers, already skeptical of SS favoritism, struggled to maintain operational effectiveness with what little remained. SS units, still receiving priority when possible, could achieve local tactical victories, but only temporarily. The cost of these victories accelerated Germany's strategic decline. In essence, both forces were fighting the same war, but for different reasons. Wehrmacht fought to preserve Germany. SS fought to prove ideology. The paradox was evident during the Battle of Berlin. As the city burned in April 1945, Wehrmacht units attempted coordinated defensive maneuvers. SS units fought with reckless determination in isolated sectors, buying time, but often at a price that rendered neighboring units ineffective. Coordination broke down. Miscommunication, conflicting objectives, and depleted manpower created gaps the Allies exploited. Germany's military collapse was not caused by a single battle, but by the compounded effects of internal rivalry. Every SS assault that succeeded locally contributed to strategic failure globally. Every Wehrmacht restraint preserved temporary pockets, but could not compensate for the losses elsewhere. Historians examining post-war records noted that the Waffen-SS, once celebrated as elite, had become a drain on Germany's limited resources. Only 8 divisions remained consistently elite. The remaining 30 proved mediocre or worse. Many foreign SS units deserted, surrendered, or collapsed under pressure. Wehrmacht divisions, although exhausted, demonstrated higher adaptability, resilience, and strategic value. If Germany had integrated SS divisions with the Wehrmacht more effectively, with proper training and resource allocation, historians speculate the front could have held longer, perhaps months longer, but not indefinitely. The ideological divide was too deep. The organizational friction was too entrenched. A final lesson emerges from this history. Loyalty and effectiveness are not synonymous. The SS demonstrated unwavering loyalty to a leader and ideology, but that loyalty often came at the expense of sustainable military performance. The Wehrmacht prioritized disciplined, methodical approaches to combat, preserving manpower and operational continuity, but sometimes lacked the fanaticism that produced temporary tactical brilliance. Germany's collapse was accelerated by the clash between these two cultures. One fought to survive, the other fought to prove a point. The result was predictable: exhaustion, misallocation of forces, and ultimate defeat. By the time Hitler committed suicide on April 30th, 1945, both the Wehrmacht and Waffen-SS were shadows of their former selves. Cities in ruins, supply lines shattered, and soldiers exhausted beyond repair, Germany could no longer resist the advancing Allied and Soviet forces. The internal war, invisible to most, had already done its damage. The ideological fanaticism of the SS, combined with favoritism and reckless tactics, had weakened the very military they were meant to strengthen. The disciplined yet bureaucratic Wehrmacht, constrained by its own systems, could not compensate. Together, the rivalry had accelerated collapse. As historians reflect on this period, the story offers a stark lesson. Internal division can be more dangerous than the enemy outside. A military may face overwhelming odds, but if its own branches are competing instead of cooperating, even elite forces cannot prevent failure. Germany's experience during the final years of World War II demonstrates that resources, doctrine, loyalty, and culture must align, or the entire system collapses from within. In the next chapter, we will examine the final operations on the Eastern Front and the Western campaigns, exploring how fractured command structures, conflicting priorities, and internal rivalry shaped the last desperate defenses of the Third Reich, and why these battles were fought not just against the Allies, but against Germany's own divided military.